Shirley here. Welcome back to my 2 cents. So I learned a new word this week, and because I am me, of course, I got a little excited about it. But before we talk about this new cool word, just a reminder that here I am going to share the heart of this with you. But I've also written a fuller companion article with additional research and links and things like that, and reflection for those who want to go deeper. So choose your medium and let's get started. Anywho, this new cool word I learned is Niksen. It is spelled Niksen and it's pronounced, I think I said it right, Niksen. It's a Dutch word that basically means doing nothing, not resting while you scroll, not watching a documentary, not journaling, not sitting quietly so that you can solve a problem. It's just doing nothing. And when I heard it, my immediate thought was this might be the practice before the right braining practice. But let me back up for a minute. Since deciding to make right braining the foundation of Shirley's 2 cents, I have naturally started learning everything I can about attention. That's just who I am. Do not want to say something because it sounds profound or because it fits nicely on a t-shirt. I'm that person that I want to be accurate. I want to understand it, and I want to bring value. And maybe that's just the quiet leader in me, but I am always looking for the pattern underneath the thing we can already see. Anyway, I was watching a video about attention, and the speaker was explaining that our technology has evolved extremely quickly, but the basic limitations of human attention, basically how our brain functions, did not disappear simply because we gained access to more information. And that makes sense when you think about it. When we have 20 tabs open, we cannot deeply think about the 20 things at once. We just can't. We can receive hundreds of pieces of information in one day, but that does not mean we have processed them. We may be answering emails, checking messages, listening to a podcast, glancing at notifications, thinking about work, and trying to remember what we walked into the kitchen to do. I know I do that. And we call that multitasking. But much of the time, our attention is switching back and forth. Research shows that switching tasks creates a cognitive cost, even when people become practiced at switching. So while it may feel as though we are doing everything at once, our minds are constantly having to stop, redirect, filter, and begin again. And that requires something from us. And what is interesting is that we may not even realize we are struggling anymore because this is like now the new normal, right? Everybody is distracted. Everybody is tired. Everybody is checking something. They have like multiple streams of information coming toward them. So we may not say, my attention is overloaded. We may just say, though, that I feel off, I cannot focus, am irritated, I cannot remember anything. Sound familiar? I'm tired, but I can't settle down. I have consumed all of this information, but I do not know what I actually think. And that last one is especially important to me because it brings us right back to why I started the right braining thing. I felt this before I had the language for it. For years, I have talked about the need to create more than we consume. At first, I thought meant creating books, businesses, podcasts, videos, art, or content. But now I understand it more simply. Every one of us can create a thought that was not given to us. But to do that, we need enough room to hear the thought forming. We need enough attention to stay with it. And we need enough patience not to interpret it with 5 other people's opinions. And sometimes we may need to do absolutely nothing first. So before I get to Niksen, I want to mention one other part of the attention conversation that stood out to me, and that was sleep. And I know sleep advice can sound like the most obvious advice in the world. Go to bed, because it's that simple, right? Thank you. Thank you for telling me to go to bed. That's very helpful. But that's not what I'm learning, is that sleep is not just about whether we feel physically tired. Sleep helps support memory consolidation, learning, cognitive functioning, and emotional processing. When we are sleep deprived, the parts of the brain involved in emotional reactions can become more reactive, while the systems that help regulate those reactions become less effective. So, getting enough sleep may affect how patient we are, how clearly we interpret a situation, whether we pause before reacting, a really important one, whether we can access the emotional intelligence we all believe we have. But one fact actually stopped me when I was going through everything There was this study comparing sleep deprivation with alcohol related impairment, and it found that after about 17 hours awake, performance was comparable to a blood alcohol concentration of around 0.05%. After 24 hours awake, it was comparable to approximately 0.10%. I think in the talk that I was watching, they said something about 0.8, but that was not the number. The study's exact number is what I shared just now, and the estimates were around 0.5 after 17 hours and 0.10 after 24. But either way, just think about that. We may be trying to lead people, make important decisions, regulate our emotions, care for our families, interpret information, and practice discernment while cognitively impaired from not sleeping. And instead of recognizing that our brains need restoration, we may decide we have become lazy or unmotivated or emotional or bad at focusing. And this is why sleep routines matter, because we start telling ourselves a crazy story, right? But it's not perfection, it's a routine. Going to bed and waking up reasonably consistent times is what helps. And giving ourselves a chance to wind down is so important. That though means we're not filling our minds with chaos right before asking them to rest. That means keeping our room cool and dark and quiet when possible. Those are healthy sleep habits, and they are recommended by the National Institutes of Health. It's not coming from me, it's coming from them. But I'm sharing this because reclaiming our attention is not simply about putting down our phones. That's what everyone says, right? But it's also about caring for the brain we are asking to pay attention. Which brings me back to Niksen, not President Niksen, Niksen, which means doing nothing without a productive purpose. You might sit by a window, you might stare at the ceiling, you might drink a cup of coffee, but this time it's without reading or watching or checking or planning or listening to anything. You might let your mind wander. And unlike mindfulness, you don't necessarily have to keep bringing your attention back to your breathing or to the present moment. Your mind is allowed to drift. Now, here is where people like me have to be careful, because I immediately want to ask, well, what are the benefits? How long should I do it? What will it make me more creative at? Can I build it into a framework? Is there a worksheet? That's me. What else? I might think, can we track our progress? And the whole point of Niksen is that it is not supposed to be another performance. It is not doing nothing so that you can become more productive later. It is not resting so that you can work harder. It is not staring out of the window because you are demanding that your next business idea all of a sudden appear. It is doing nothing without requiring the nothing to produce something. And I think in our society that is very uncomfortable, because we have been taught that our time should always justify itself, no matter what we're doing. Even our rest has to explain what it accomplished. That's crazy. But that is why I think Niksen is related to right braining. But it is not the same thing. Niksen says, stop filling every moment. Right braining says, carry a question and pay attention to what it reveals. Niksen does not require an outcome. Right braining has an intention. So we are practicing curiosity, observation, reflection, discernment, and agency when we're right braining. So I do not want to turn Niksen into another assignment. This is how I see it. Niksen clears the table, clears the space, and right braining places one question on it. So Niksen creates a little room between you and the constant stream of outside information, right? And then right braining asks you to carry one meaningful question through your actual life without immediately Googling it, asking AI, or borrowing somebody else's conclusion. One makes room. The other helps you notice what becomes possible once the room exists. And I think we need both, because it is one thing for me to give you a question every Sunday, but where will that question land if every available moment of your week is already occupied? Where does your own thought get to form? When does your mind get to find or finish a sentence? When do you get to hear what is happening inside if your attention is always directed outward towards something else? Again, this is not anti-AI. I use AI every day. It is not anti-technology. Technology fascinates me. And it is not anti-social media. You are probably watching me on social media right now, I hope, or listening. And it is not anti-information. I really love how we get to learn nowadays. So we cannot reverse the world we live in, and I'm not sure we would want to unless what the Dewey Decimal System is and you're okay with going to the library. But we can become more intentional about how we live inside it. We can recognize that unlimited access does not give us unlimited attention. We can protect our sleep. We can stop treating boredom like an emergency, and we can allow a thought to finish. We can create small spaces where no one is asking us to react, respond, purchase, perform, decide, or produce, and we can come back to ourselves. So this week, before you carry the question, I want to invite you to try the pre-practice. Give yourself 10 minutes of Niksen, 10 minutes of doing nothing. Sit by a window, sit with your coffee, look at the room, let your mind wander. Do not journal. Do not try to solve anything. Do not demand an insight. And when the 10 minutes are over, do not immediately grade the experience. That's not what this is about. Do not have to decide whether it worked. It's not that thing. Just let yourself have 10 minutes that did not have to become anything else. Oh, and here's the question I want you to carry this week. When was the last time you did nothing without needing the nothing to produce something? Do not rush to answer. Notice whether the question makes you uncomfortable. Notice whether you immediately start thinking about how doing nothing can make you more productive. Notice whether rest feels irresponsible when you cannot justify it. And notice what becomes audible when nothing else is asking for your attention. Niksen creates the silence, and right braining helps us listen differently. And that's just my 2 cents. Now go create one thought that wasn't given to you today. And I'll see you again next time.